Hi everyone, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I have a special episode of my Back to Cake Basics series, and I'm going to show you how to make the ultimate raspberry buttercream. This frosting is so light and creamy and fluffy, and it's made with real raspberry flavor. You guys are going to love this frosting for cakes and cupcakes. You can even use it to fill pastries and macarons. To add the real raspberry flavor, I'm going to make a zesty and fruity raspberry sauce. It's going to add so much incredible flavor to this buttercream. I'm going to be using this recipe for my chocolate raspberry cake, which is coming out next week, so stay tuned for that recipe. Meanwhile, let's get started. I'm going to show you how to make this incredible buttercream. And I'm going to get things started with the raspberry sauce. So into a small saucepan, I'm going to add in 1 cup of raspberries. Today I'm using frozen ones. You can also use fresh berries. And I'm going to add in 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar. Turn this heat up to a medium. And you want to bring the raspberries and sugar up to simmer over medium heat, and then just let them simmer for about 4 to 5 minutes until the berries are really soft. You want to just have them fall apart completely. Essentially, we're going to make a jam, and then we're going to strain out the seeds. I've set up a fine mesh strainer over a glass mixing bowl, and I'm going to transfer this raspberry sauce into the strainer. And I'm going to use my spatula to press the sauce through the strainer, leaving just the seeds behind. So we want this beautiful, nice sauce, and then we're going to discard the seeds. And the resulting sauce, I'm just going to transfer into a small ramekin. I'm going to place this into the refrigerator so it chills completely while we're making our buttercream. And now that my raspberry sauce is all done, I'm going to get started on the buttercream. So I have 2 cups of unsalted butter, and I've softened the butter at room temperature. You don't want it to be too melted, just slightly soft so that it whisks up nicely. I'm going to drop the butter into my mixer bowl. And the secret to making a really great buttercream is to whisk the butter all by itself for about 7 to 9 minutes on high speed, scraping down that mixing bowl periodically to make sure that the butter is really light and creamy. It's going to make the perfect buttercream. And it's the last of my butter going into my mixing bowl. I'm going to turn this up to a medium speed at first, mix on medium for about a minute, and then I'll turn it up to high speed, whisking for about 7 to 9 minutes. And as you're whisking the butter, you'll notice it's going to change color and texture. So it went from a pale yellow to a really pale white creamy color, and it's really light and creamy now. I'm going to whisk it for a couple more minutes, and then we'll start adding in our confectioner sugar. I've scraped down the inside of my mixing bowl one more time, and now I'm ready to add in my confectioner sugar. I'm going to add in 3 cups of sugar, and I really like to use a fresh bag of confectioner sugar whenever I can. Or if you have some leftover, make sure to seal it really well and then place it into a Ziploc bag, because the sugar will absorb moisture really quickly. And I'm going to start this off on a slow speed first, just until all that powdered sugar is incorporated, and then I'll turn this up to high speed and whisk for about 3 to 4 minutes. And just as we did with the butter, I'm going to stop my mixer periodically and scrape down the sides of my mixing bowl. But check this out, this buttercream is already looking so fluffy. I love this texture. I'm going to mix it for a couple more minutes, and then we'll start adding our color and that raspberry sauce. And before I add my raspberry sauce, I'm going to go around the mixing bowl one more time, scrape down all that buttercream so it's not on the sides of the mixer, and then we'll add in our raspberry sauce. I've chilled this in the refrigerator, and it's even thickened up quite a bit. It's going to be the perfect way to add so much incredible raspberry flavor. And whenever you're making any type of flavored buttercream, where you're adding like a jelly or a jam at the to flavor it, make sure you add it at the very end. So make sure your buttercream is good to go, and then add that. Otherwise, the jam or the fruit can cause the buttercream to separate. So that's why I'm adding it at the very end. And I'm going to add in my sauce. There's about 1/4 cup of raspberry sauce here. I'm going to drop it into my mixing bowl. And I'm going to add in a couple drops of red food coloring. This is an optional step. Just want this frosting to be a really nice and bright color. And we're going to give this a mix, and you don't want to mix this for too long once you add that raspberry sauce, about 15 to 20 seconds, 30 seconds maximum. And this buttercream looks absolutely phenomenal. I love the color from the raspberry sauce. Once I mix it for about 15 to 20 seconds, I finish mixing everything in by hand with a spatula so it doesn't separate the buttercream. I mean, check out that color, and it smells so good. The raspberry sauce gives it so much incredible aroma. Just wow, guys. I cannot get over how incredible this buttercream is. It is so light and fluffy and creamy. Love that light pink pale color, and it smells so incredible. You can actually smell that raspberry sauce in there, and it tastes incredible too. You guys are going to love this frosting for cakes and cupcakes and desserts. Just amazing. Look at that. I've transferred some of my frosting into a pastry bag, and today I'm using a Teco tip number 847. It's a really nice classic tip. I wanted to show you guys how beautifully this pipes. This is going to be so perfect for cakes and cupcakes. Just check this out, and it holds its shape so well. It looks so pretty too. And that is how you make the best ever raspberry buttercream. You guys are going to love this recipe for cakes, cupcakes, and desserts. For the full recipe, don't forget to head on down the video description box. I'll have everything up on my website where I'll include more tips and more suggestions for how to use this frosting. I love to enjoy a little bit of the frosting off the sides of my mixing bowl. It's so tempting, and you have to do this. So good. The flavors of this frosting are just out of this world. It's so creamy and fluffy, and I love that real raspberry flavor from the raspberry sauce that we added in there. It's just so fruity and zesty and delicious. It's going to be the perfect complement for my chocolate raspberry cake. That recipe is coming next week, so make sure to stay tuned. Meanwhile, make sure to check out some of my other Back to Cake Basics episode. I have a whole series of frostings and fillings and basic cake recipes that you guys are going to love. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with my new recipe.